said is that we need to get some type of evaluation process and to see what the offenders feel about their interaction with staff as well as how the program was working for them. So my supervisor came to me and said, "Hey Anthony, you was thinking about a capstone project. Do you want to maybe undertake this?" And so I said, "Okay, I'll give it a try." And so that's how. And one of the other reasons was because my whole reason why I came to the executive MPA program was to develop programs that's effective for offenders so that we can reduce recidivism, because I think less criminals on the street, less victims. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to do that. And so some of the rationales for the research is sort of what I just said: reduce recidivism, to improve the CPC checklist scoring. And also, really, one of the main things I wanted to do was really see what did the offenders really feel about all these programming we were doing. One of the other things, too, in corrections, corrections is real good at finding evidence-based programs and throwing them in, but their practices are sometimes a little skewed by the people we serve. So I wanted to see, is that true, and how much is it true? And so one of the ways, and what's the next one? So what I did was looked up some of the research to see was there any research out there where someone had went in and evaluated offenders, ideas about programming and things like that. It was really actually very low. However, there were some background stuff that talked about some of the things that make program effective and certain attributes like being warm and enthusiastic in communication, and and one of the things also they found out was that it is important how you interact with offenders in order for it to be successful. That if you have bad interactions with offenders, that the program effectiveness is reduced, either in stay, that they may just jump up and leave, or that when they get out, it has no impact and they actually go and do other things. Go back to what they were doing. So what I did was I set up, I did interviews of offenders and had basic 4 questions that I asked them. It was, what was your qualities of your favorite security staff, which is correctional officers? And then what was your favorite quality of your correction counselors? Because those are the 2 people that they have most interactions with. There's very little, like management, they have very little with them. So I wanted to know what was the qualities of the people that they got along the most? What was the things that they got out of that? What, if they interacted with a favorite staff member that gave them something, what did they give them? Also, I wanted those same people to be evaluated with the negative experience of the negative interaction. What was those things that made it a negative interaction? What was the qualities about that person that made it negative? And so what I did was that I coded them. Well, let me go back. The people I chose as far as the participants were people who were actually in programming. Washington County Corrections have a 90-day treatment program. It's a residential program. So I chose the people not that was in a residential program at the time, but the people who had left, who was doing groups. It was called a continuing care group, because I was afraid that if I did people within the correctional facility at the time, that they may be a little reluctant, because they may be retaliated against or whatever, have fear of that. So I wanted someone who was outside, who had been in program, who had experience, and would be, open to talk about what their experiences was like. So I chose those particular people. And so, I went through the survey questions. And so this is the results that came out of that. The qualities of their favorite counselors and was connectedness and compassionate and respectful. And then of the favorite security staff was personable, respectful, and compassionate. So that's when they interacted with those people, with the people that they said was their favorite, these are the qualities that came out of it. The qualities of their least favorite counselors was lack of compassion, judgmental, and closed-mindedness. And of the security staff, it was authoritarian, judgmental, lack of empathy, and lack of interpersonal skills. And some of the things they said, what was really significant in the project itself is show you how I came to these and I got the numbers, but what was significant about this was that the qualities, connectedness, and personable was like the highs of all of it when they liked a person. However, when you went down to their least favorite, when they had an interaction with their least favorite person, the numbers went up. Like there was some of these other traits like interpersonal, judgmental, it meant really nothing in comparison to the number, but authoritarian was really high. Like the most people that they had the less amount of, the worst interaction with was because of this authoritarian idea. And what they said is that, and some of the research says this, is that most of it is about a belief about the people who are serving them, believe that they are the correction person or the law enforcement person, and that they are the criminal. So some of that is related to that, but also when they talk about authoritarian, part of a correctional officer's duties is to direct and control an environment. So when I looked at that, I actually tried to figure out which one were they talking about. Most of them, when they went into and they shared about that experience, it had to do more with someone misusing their authority. They would tell you that if I did something, I was okay with getting in trouble, but most of the authoritarian that I picked out was the ones where they felt that they was being mistreated, that someone was imposing some power upon them, for no reason at all. That's what they said. So some of the discussion questions I had about that was that, is it really important? What is more important, to have an evidence-based curriculums and ideas and theory, or what about practice? Does those two things always match? Is one of the things I kind of looked at. And I looked at some research that said that when, and I think I said this before, when you got people in programming and the people who's not showing compassion and empathy and misusing that power, it has a negative impact on the people who are receiving the services. They actually did a study in Seattle where they went in and they looked at the correctional officers, and they interviewed the correctional officers about what was their views about offenders, even though they're serving them. And a lot of it was negative. It was some of the beliefs, like, I was listening to Chris and some of the things he was talking about. It was that a lot of it was about that they made rational decisions, so they should get whatever punishment is due to them. And a lot of it, what they talk about, a lot of these correctional facilities are in rural area when a lot of people are not educated, they don't have the expertise to work with offenders. They have more of a belief system, more of an attitude towards the people that they serve. Even though you have all these other things that say, we got these things in place for this program to be more effective, the people who are carrying it out is kind of like offsetting the work that you're trying to do. And so one of the things that I concluded was that one of the things I concluded in my project is that there was a few things that we needed to do. Some of it is like we have to change the mindset of how we deliver services to offenders. And I think I'm going to talk about it on the next one. And we need to find some way to elicit more feedback from people we are providing service, whether they are offenders or anything. I think most of us could attest that anytime we're offering services, no matter if they are offenders, we want to know what they think about the services we are providing. And so some of the recommendations that I came up with is, and I think these are some important ones. I would like to say this, is that some of these things are in place, because actually they did use my recommendations and research to implement some of those. So one of the things that they actually started doing was the recruitment piece. Is that they stopped, I don't know, like if you work with government, they have these patents, supplemental questions that everyone, answer, but it really doesn't get to the qualities that you're looking for. So actually, if you go and apply for a job with Washington County, you have to go through scenarios, like something that happened, and they give you a scenario, and you have to role play what you would do. And from that, what you do is that you see how they interact with, that role play, and then you take the qualities and you code them. Also, some of the supplemental questions have been changed to reflect what is your views about offenders. What do you think should happen to offenders? So it's really addressing some of the things that we found. The other thing that happened was after I took some of the findings back to the directors, we started a small group, and what we did was that we had staff members talk about a situation, whether it was good or bad, that they would like to sit and talk about, and we took that and we just role played those situations. And if it was a negative one, we helped assist them on how you could have done it different, or maybe sometimes removing yourself from a situation and that sort. So we did. They actually still doing. I'm no longer with Washington County, but they actually still doing it. And the other thing was a satisfaction survey. So every time anyone who leaves the correctional facility, they get a survey, and they fill it out, and it's coded, and then they go back and they make recommendations based on if things will get better or if they get worse, and then they make recommendations. The other thing that was really interesting was that, I don't know if it's up there, the offenders at Washington County, they didn't have a grievance process. It was a loosely defined one. It's like if you got one from a foreperson, they would just throw it in the trash can, and it would never get to management. There was not a process for the offenders to redress their issues they would have about a person, and that sometimes it would get to the supervisor, sometimes not. So actually, one of the things that was implemented was an actual grievance process where they would track, and some of the things that came out of it. So let's say, and there were some other things that came out of it, like if an offender was abusing the system, because they had a limit of how many times they could do that. But also, if a person kept getting grieved, there was a process of coaching and some other things to try to, remove that behavior. I think these are the people who kind of helped me through this program. I'm actually, and really, really grateful for my 2008 cohort members, as well as the faculty. They've been really great for me. I had a rough time in this program, and they've been flexible, and they've actually, I'm kind of touched by that more than anything, because I think it was actually geared towards me succeeding, and I really appreciate everyone. So,